Welcome to Workplace Staff Training on Cultural Awareness. My name is Sabrina, and today I'd like to talk about how you can achieve cultural diversity in the workplace. The culture I will be discussing today is Indian culture. I would like to start by apologising in advance if I pronounce anything incorrectly, and just a reminder that the information used in this presentation should only be used as a guide. Namaste. This is the traditional Indian form of greeting, which means I bow to the divine in you. The Namaste is used for greeting, for taking leave, and also to seek forgiveness. We will begin by discussing a brief history. India is located in the continent of Asia. India is comprised of 28 states and 9 union territories. The capital city is New Delhi. Including both land and water, India covers more than 3.2 million square kilometres, making it the 7th largest nation in the world. As a comparison, this image shows the difference in sizes of India and Australia. According to UN data, India's population is estimated at 1.3 billion. That's right, I said billion, which is approximately 17% of the total world population. Here's the image again, displaying the size difference of India and Australia. I'm sure you can imagine just how densely populated India is. India's history is extensive. It would take hours to discuss it all, so I've chosen a few significant eras that I found interesting. Indus Valley Civilization, 3300 BCE to 1300 BCE. The history of India begins with the Indus Valley Civilization and the coming of the Aryans. Indus Valley Civilization, which flourished between 2600 BCE and 1900 BCE, had an advanced and flourishing economic system. The Indus Valley people practiced agriculture, domesticated animals, made tools and weapons from copper, bronze, and tin, and even traded with some Middle East countries. Maurya Empire, 322 BCE to 185 BCE. The Maurya Empire was the largest political entity that has existed in the Indian subcontinent. Internal and external trade, agriculture, and economic activities thrived and expanded across South Asia due to the creation of a single and efficient system of finance, administration, and security. Gupta dynasty, 320 CE to 550 CE. The Gupta dynasty is widely considered as the golden age of India by some historians. The high points of this period are the great cultural developments. Science and political administration reached new heights during this era. Delhi Sultanate, 1206 to 1526. The Delhi Sultanate era is the Islamic empire based in Delhi that stretched over large parts of the Indian subcontinent for 320 years. The Sultanate is noted for its integration of the Indian subcontinent into global cosmopolitan culture, being one of the few powers to repel attacks by the Mongols. However, it is also responsible for the large-scale desecration of Hindu and Buddhist temples and the destruction of universities and libraries. Mughal Empire, 1526 to 1857. The Delhi Sultanate was conquered and succeeded by the Mughal Empire. Although this empire was created and sustained by military warfare, it did not suppress the cultures and people it came to rule. This created a large and prosperous economy. British Raj, 1858 to 1947. The British Raj was a rule of the British Crown of India. The British introduced an irrigation program which increased the amount of land available for farming by 8 times. They developed a coal industry which had not existed before. Public health and life expectancy increased under British rule, mainly due to improved water supplies and the introduction of treatment against malaria. Independence Movement, 1857 to 1947. The independence movement was a series of activities with the ultimate aim of ending the British rule in India. On August 15, 1947, the UK Parliament passed the Indian Independence Act 1947. India attained independence following the movement, noted for largely non-violent resistance and civil disobedience. The Indian flag. The Indian flag was designed as a symbol of freedom. The top third of the flag is a saffron colour and represents the strength and courage of the country. The centre third is white and represents truth, purity, and peace. The Ashok Chakra, which is the navy blue wheel in the middle, indicates the Dharma Chakra, the wheel of law. The lower third is green, representing faith, fertility, and growth. There is no single Indian language. Instead, there are a diverse number of languages that are spoken. This is the top 5 most spoken languages in India. For each language except English, I've provided an audio translation of "Hello, how are you?" so you can hear a little bit of what the language sounds like. Number 1 is Hindi, with 551 million speakers.
नमस्ते, आप कैसे हैं?
Hindi is the most spoken language in India. It is one of the official languages of the country. Hindi is a descendant of Sanskrit language and is influenced by Dravidian, Arabic, Portuguese, English, Persian, and Turkish. Number 2 is English, with 125 million speakers. English is one of the official languages of the federal government of India. In some states of India, such as Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh, English is an official language. English has been taught in schools in India since the days of the East India Company in the 1800s during the British Raj era. Number 3 is Bengali, with 91 million speakers.
হ্যালো, আপনি কেমন আছেন?
Bengali is the foremost language in most of the states in the northeastern regions of India, including Andaman and Nicobar Island. Bengali was initially a secular language of Old Indo-Aryan and was influenced by Persian and Arabic. Number 4 is Telugu, with 84 million speakers.
హలో మీరు ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
Telugu is mainly spoken in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Yanam. And last but not least, number 5 is Marathi, also with 84 million speakers.
नमस्कार, कसे आहात?
Like Bengali, Marathi is also an Indo-Aryan language that serves as an official language of states in the western portion of the country, including Goa and Maharashtra. There are approximately 42 different dialects spoken of Marathi. Religion in India is characterized by a diversity of religious beliefs and practices. India is officially a secular state and has no state religion. These are the top 6 major religions in India according to the 2011 census. Number 1 is Hinduism, with almost 80% of the population identifying as Hindu. Hinduism has been called the oldest religion in the world. Scholars regard Hinduism as a fusion of various Indian cultures with diverse roots and no founder. For Hindus, there is a single universal God known as the Supreme Being, or Brahman, who is present within all things. There are also 33 million gods and goddesses, known as Deva and Devi, who represent one or more of Brahman's aspects. The Hindi trinity consists of 3 gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is the creator of the universe and all creatures. Although their names are similar, Brahma is not to be confused with Brahman, who is the supreme God force present in all things. Vishnu is the preserver of the universe. He maintains order and harmony. Shiva is tasked with destroying the universe in order to prepare for its renewal at the end of each cycle of time. Number 2 is Islam, with just over 14% of the population identifying as Muslim. Islam has influenced the country's society, culture, architecture, and artistry. The Islamic community in India continues to play a considerable role in the development of the country. The majority of Indian Muslims are Sunni, but there are also influential Shiite minorities in Gujarat. Number 3 is Christianity. With 2.3% of the population identifying as Christian, the most prominent denomination of Christianity in India is Roman Catholicism. The southern state of Kerala has 25% of the total Christian population in India. Number 4 is Sikhism, with 1.7% of the population identifying as Sikh. Originating in India, Sikhism is a monotheistic religion that promotes devotion to a formless God. The religion is centered on a tenet of service, humility, and equality, encouraging its followers to seek help for those less fortunate or in need. One of the most recognized symbols of the Sikh community is a Sikh turban worn by many men and some women. Number 5 is Buddhism, with 0.7% of the population identifying as Buddhist. Buddhism originated as a counter movement to early Hinduism, representing a universal ethic rather than basing ethical codes on an individual's caste. Lastly, number 6 is Jainism, with 0.37% of the population identifying as Jain. Jainism also originated as a counter movement that oppose some of the teachings and doctrines of early Hinduism. In modern-day India, layperson Jains usually uphold the ethical principle of ahimsa, non-violence. As such, Jains tend to promote vegetarianism and animal welfare. Although only 3.7% of India may identify with Jainism, due to the massive population size of India, that still equates to over 4 million people. Clothing in India changes depending on the different ethnicity, geography, climate, and cultural traditions of the people of each region. Western clothing continues to increase in popularity in the city centres, though the traditional bold colours and embroidery of classic Indian attire influence newer designs. This is a list of some traditional Indian attire. We will begin with women clothing. Sari. Women throughout India wear traditional saris made of cotton or silk. The fabric is wrapped over on the body in countless ways depending on where the wearer lives. Mandam Neriyatam. This is the oldest remnant of the ancient form of the sari, which covers only the lower part of the body. It is the traditional dress of women in Kerala, a state in the southwestern part of India. Mekela Chador. This is a traditional Assamese dress worn by women of all ages. Salwar Kameez. This is the traditional wear of women in Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh, and is called the Punjab suit, which is most common in the northwestern part of India. Churidar. This is a variation of the salwar. While the salwar is baggy and cordon at the ankle, churidar fits below the knees with horizontal gathers near the ankles. Anarkali suit. This extremely desirable style is adorned by women located in northern India. Many women opt for heavier embroidered anarkali suits for weddings and functions. Lehenga choli or Gagra choli. This is the traditional clothing of women in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Punjabis also wear them and they are used in some of their folk dances. Patu Pavadai or Langa Davani. This is a traditional dress in South India and Rajasthan, usually worn by teenage and small girls. Next is men. Dhoti. This is the traditional dress in India. This attire is mainly worn by men in villages. Over the dhoti, men wear shirts. Lungi, also known as a sarong, it is a traditional garment of India. It is usually tucked in when the person is working in fields or in workshops and is left open usually as a mark of respect in worship areas or when the person is around dignitaries. Achkan or Sharavani. This is usually worn during the wedding ceremonies by the groom and is usually cream, light ivory or gold coloured. Bantagala or Jodhpuri. This is a formal evening suit. It is suitable for occasions such as weddings and formal events. Angakar. Historically, the angakar was a court outfit that a person could wrap around himself, offering flexible ease with the knots and ties appropriate for wearing in various principalities of ancient India. Dastar or Pagri. This is a turban worn by the Sikh community in India. It is a symbol of faith representing values such as valor, honour and spirituality, among others. It is worn to protect the Sikhs' long, uncut hair. Peda. Peda is the Marathi name for turbans worn in the state of Maharashtra. It is usually worn during traditional ceremonies and occasions. Hair, jewellery and skin adornments complement the flowing and often textured and embellished clothing. Both men and women wear jewellery including everything from toe rings to necklaces. Women also adorn their foreheads with decorative bindi or dots in red or black. These markings have significance in Hinduism and vary in shape and size depending on the occasions or social position of the wearer. Some non-Hindus wear them for decoration only. Temporary henna tattoos add body decoration to hands, feet and other body parts for ceremonies and festivals. Many of the major festivals in India are celebrated throughout Southeast Asia and other parts of the world where large Indian or Hindu communities exist. There are quite a few holidays and festivals that are celebrated, so I've chosen a handful to discuss that you may have heard of before but maybe don't know much about. Indian Republic Day celebrates the adoption of a new Indian constitution on January 26, 1950. Republic Day is celebrated in India as a national holiday with business closures, parades, military displays, and patriotic activities. Holi, the festival of colours, celebrates the end of the winter and drives away bad spirits that could cause ill health before the upcoming spring harvest. Holi involves people dancing in the streets while throwing water and coloured dye powders. Another of India's national holidays, Independence Day, celebrates India's hard-won independence from British rule on August 15, 1947. Parades, pageants, and plenty of flag waving creates a sense of pride at cultural events throughout the country. Mahatma Gandhi is still very much loved in India. Born on October 2, 1869, Gandhi's birthday is one of the 3 official national holidays and is observed in every state across the subcontinent. Peaceful tributes and prayer services are held to honour the father of the nation, and a large crowd gathers at Raj Ghat, Gandhi's memorial in New Delhi. Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights, is one of the most iconic festivals. Clay lamps filled with oil are lit to symbolize good over evil, and firecrackers are let off. Diwali is celebrated by Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains. For many people, Diwali honors the Hindu goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. The lights and lamps are said to help Lakshmi find her way into people's homes, bringing prosperity into the new year to come. Diwali takes place annually, runs for 5 consecutive days, and marks the start of the Hindu New Year. India has been Australia's biggest source of migrants since 2016. There are estimates to suggest that there are 592,000 Indians living in Australia as of June 2018. Indian migration to Australia was an early feature of the British colonisation of Australia due to both countries being British colonies. The first wave of Indian migration to Australia took place in the 1800s period, with good numbers coming to work as labourers, domestic workers, and camel drivers. Another wave of Indian migration took place from 1860 to 1901, prior to the Federation and Independence of Australia in 1901. These migrants were mainly agricultural labourers to work sugar and banana plantations in southern Queensland. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Indian Australian population numbered 6,500. But with the implementation of the White Australia policy, Indian migration to Australia ground to a halt from 1901 until early 1970s. With the abolition of the White Australia policy in the early 1970s, Indian migration to Australia gradually took off. The profile of Australia's Indian migrants these past few decades is quite different from the past, with a heavy concentration of doctors, nurses, engineers, IT specialists, and teachers. According to the 2011 census, Indian Australians are spread out across the country, but with concentrations in Melbourne and Sydney. The majority are working age and about 56% are male. Now that you know a little bit more about Indian culture, you may be wondering how you can make sure your workplace is diverse and inclusive of not only this culture, but all cultures. In our workplaces, most of us would accept cultural diversity as part of everyday life. But what is an inclusive workplace? An inclusive workplace is a working environment that values the individual and group differences within its workforce. It enables a company to embrace diversity of backgrounds and perspectives of the employees, which in turn increases their talent, innovation, creativity, and contributions. An inclusive workplace makes diverse employees feel valued, welcome, integrated, and included in the workforce instead of isolated. Research has shown that a diverse, inclusive workforce is more productive and innovative. Positive outcomes from an inclusive company are improved employee health, well-being and productivity, reduced perception of discrimination and inequity, and improved cooperation and collaboration between co-workers. An inclusive culture can be created and maintained through policies and procedures that promote acceptance set by management or the employer. Educating employees about diversity and inclusion in cultural communication is crucial to understand how business traditions differ from one culture to another. Motivating employees to act inclusively is another way to achieve a more inclusive workplace. This can be achieved by diversity training, workshops, and cultural events within the organisation. So how can we help support the Indian youth coming to Australia? Let's begin by discussing some of the possible risk factors. India has 73 million people living in extreme poverty. which makes up 5.5% of the total population. Psychological research has demonstrated that living in poverty has a wide range of negative effects on the physical and mental health and well-being of youth. Youth living in poverty are at a greater risk of behavioural and emotional problems such as getting along with others, aggression, anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. If you find that a youth in your care is struggling with their physical and mental health, I've provided a couple of mental health services that may prove useful. The first is the Royal Children's Hospital Mental Health. This is a service you can turn to when there are serious concerns about a youth's mental health and well-being. They provide a range of hospital inpatient, specialist consultation, and community mental health services for infants, children, and young people. They have extensive child, youth, and family expertise. Some of their mental health professionals include child psychotherapists, nurses, and psychologists. The second service, Origin, is more self-serving. Origin provides specialist mental health services for young people aged 15 to 25. Their focus is on providing early intervention to young people with severe and/or complex mental illness. When young people leave India to come to Australia, many of them leave their very close families and friends behind to work and/or study here. They could feel quite lonely as they may have come alone. They may feel reluctant to explore Australian culture, especially if they don't have support. I provided 2 Indian-run organisations that may help a young person embrace life in Australia with the support of people from the same culture. The first is the Australia-India Society of Victoria. They offer individuals an opportunity to stay connected to their culture and heritage and have access to important social support services. The second is India Care. They are a not-for-profit organisation set up in 2014 dedicated solely to address the welfare needs of Indian origin people in Victoria. Their purpose is to strengthen people of Indian origin in Victoria so that they can achieve their full potential and become fully contributing members of society. As previously mentioned, Indian youth coming to Australia may not be fully aware of Australian culture, customs and laws. This can be quite overwhelming for them as well. The last risk factor I would like to mention is language barriers. Although English is pretty widely spoken in India, Indian young people who come to Australia may not be completely fluent. It is therefore a good idea to be patient when speaking to a newly arrived Indian youth and use an interpreter when necessary. Let's discuss a couple of positive factors now. Unlike many young people in Australia who move out of the family home as soon as they can, usually at 18, in India the joint family is highly valued, ideally consisting of several generations living, working, eating and worshipping together. This creates strong family bonds. There is also a rapidly growing Indian community in Australia. This is beneficial for new arrivals, as there are many avenues for social and cultural support. Even if a workplace is culturally inclusive and diverse, conflict may still arise. So what are some ways we can resolve these conflicts? Avoid deal-making. Research shows that deal-making across cultures tends to lead to worse outcomes as compared with negotiations conducted with the same culture. The reason is primarily that cultures are characterized by different behaviors, communication styles, and norms. As a result, when negotiating across cultures, we bring different perspectives to the bargaining table, which in turn may result in potential misunderstandings. It is important not to rely on stereotypes as they can lead to distorted expectations. Something else that is important is not interpreting others' behaviors, values, and beliefs through the lens of your own culture. You can overcome this by learning as much as you can about the other person's culture. This means not only researching the customs and behaviors, but also understanding why they follow these customs and exhibit these behaviors. Allow the use of interpreters. Respect the other person's point of view. Confront cultural discrimination and show no tolerance for it. Lastly, but very importantly, be patient, flexible, and willing to learn. Several policies and legislation support and enable inclusion, diversity, and equity commitments in the workplace. 2 examples of this include the Racial Discrimination Act 1975. This act promotes equality before the law for all people regardless of race, colour, or national or ethnic origin. It is unlawful to discriminate against people on the basis of race, colour, descent, or national or ethnic origin. The second is the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act 2001. This act makes behaviour that incites or encourages hatred, serious contempt, revulsion, severe ridicule, against another person or group based on their race and or religion unlawful in Victoria. The penalties for an offence against either of these acts may result in anything from loss of job to something more severe, such as imprisonment. I've also provided some links below if you'd like more information regarding Australian legislation. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you for watching. I hope you have found this information useful in creating a more diverse and inclusive workplace.